I want winners. I want people that want to win.
You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it.
You got to put your money where your mouth is, Pete.
It's not gambling advice. Wednesday, April 27th, and welcome to Not Gambling Advice. That's Colby. I'm Peter, and today we're talking about how we bet. Because Colby, we've been on an insane winning streak. I am 23-5 in my last 28 picks. I've won 8 in a row. We went 3-0 yesterday, and over the full season so far since opening day, April 7th, 37-18, winning at a 67% rate. And we track our units. We put 1 unit on each play every day. And I'm currently up 19.54 units. But I'm not the only one that's on a crazy hot streak. You have been dropping picks in our chalkboard group chat, or baseball group chat, which you can find the link in the episode description. We're talking baseball all day. And Colby is giving out his picks. And he's hot as shit, too. We're just on a roll, Colby.
I am 19-13. In my last, whatever that is, 31, 32, I am 6-0 in my last 6, but on top of that, I hit a parlay on Sunday, 3-teamer plus 500 odds. So the amount of units we're up right now, Peter, is unspeakable.
And that's what I want to talk about today, because what is a unit? What are we betting on? You see first fives, you see money lines, spreads. What is it? And for example, you say 19-13, you're not taking minus 200, minus 250 money lines. You hit on the Angels yesterday. You've hit on Marlins plus bets. We don't give out anything really above minus 140. So these records are good indicators of positive units because a lot of them are underdogs. So let's start with that. And later on in the episode, we're going to go through exactly how we picked each one of our picks on a daily basis. But let's start with just some vernacular, some dictionary definitions of some of the stuff that we go into. So for example, a money line bet is I am taking the team to win. Let's say it's minus 150. That means you would have to put $150 to win $100. Or if a money line was plus 150, you only have to lay $100 to win 150. Obviously, $100 is just a X amount of money. You could do 10, you could do 1, you could do 1,000,000, you could do 1,000. It's whatever it goes into. Right, Colby? Money lines? How do we like them?
Yeah, exactly, man. And I think the interesting thing with the money lines, right, you have your favorites and you have your underdogs. Do you want me to go into that a little bit?
Of course I do.
Okay, great. So if I have a minus 130 favorite, say it's the Dodgers against the Padres. They're minus 130 and the Padres are plus 110. If I put $13 on the Dodgers, that means I win $10. On the other side, I have the Padres at plus 110. That means I can put $10 down and I will get $11 because they are plus 110, right? It might have been easier if I explained it as $100, but you kind of get the gist, right? The interesting thing is there, and I'll use another example, is a guy picked every single underdog in March Madness. He went 18-38, Peter, but guess what? He was up 12 units because he was hitting plus 440, plus 550 underdogs. So sometimes, like you were saying, record isn't the all saying God, right? You can have a losing record and still be up units.
Absolutely. And the reason why we don't really bet on minus 200, minus 250, and you'll hear a lot of other MLB handicappers, they give out those lines and they say, well, it's good enough value for me at that price. For me, I'll never do that. And I'll tell you why. Because what we love about baseball so much is that anything can happen, right? And think about probability. Just think about math for a second. You take something that's minus 160. You're almost in the sense of it has 160% chance, or think of it like that. Like it's much more likely to happen, even though in baseball, the underdog wins all the time. That's why in a baseball game, anything can happen. So I really refrain from taking anything above minus 150, because then you get into, I'm paying for more value than I think is possible in a baseball game. Anything can happen in a baseball game. So that's why we rely, when we're looking at the money line, at below minus 150. So let's get into spreads, because spreads is when you take a bet. Oh, you got something before.
Yeah. I got one more thing, right? So the odds are implying a probability. So minus 160 actually implies that team has a 61.54% chance to win that game. So if you believe that team has a 65 or a 70% chance to win that game and their odds are minus 160, maybe it's a good bet. But in baseball, a lot of times, the highest odds you're going to see in a baseball game for a team to win are maybe 60%. Usually it's 55 to 58% for a favorite. And a lot of times it is right around 50%. The other thing I'll mention real quick is that if you go to 538 or any of those analytical sites, they'll give a 3% edge just for being at home.
There you go. I mean, there you go. It's right there in the pudding. So let's talk about spreads, because spreads are a little bit different than a money line. A spread is I want the team, or that's the bet, that the team will win by more than 2 runs. So if they win 4-2, you win your bet. If they win 4-3, you lose. Sometimes I steer away from full game spreads. And the reason why is because a team can dominate a game. They can win 2-1. They can win 1-0. They can win 4-3. And they dominated the game. It's exactly how you thought it was going to go, but it's still a 1-run game. Colby, when you look at spreads, because I rarely bet on them, and we're going to get into our picks from Tuesday and kind of go over how we came to them. And one of them is a spread, but generally, how do you like to bet spreads?
I used to be all over spreads, Peter. And if you saw Peter's tweet today about the Dodgers, how they've won 12 out of 14 of their games by more than 2 runs, right?
All 12 of their games
all
so
12
have been won by, they have 12 wins. They're 12-4. All 12 have been by over 2 runs.
So you might be saying then, why haven't you guys been betting on all of those games? And I think the better value and what we've been seeing, Peter, is we've been betting a ton of first 5, and we'll get into kind of what the first 5 means, or maybe I'll just touch on it now, right?
Go ahead.
First 5 means you're betting on just the first 5 innings of the game. When the bottom of the 5th ends, your bet ends. It's like the end of the game, right? You're betting. It's like betting the first half in basketball or in football.
Yeah.
The great thing about it in baseball is that we have knowledge of who the starting pitchers are, right? Usually by the 6th or the 7th inning, there's reliever risk in there. And we don't usually know who's exactly going to throw that night out of that bullpen. We can have a somewhat of a guess, but it's a guess. We know who the starting pitchers are, and we can have a better idea of how those starting pitchers perform because we have a bigger sample. So we like first 5 inning bets for that reason. But also a team like the Dodgers, they might be a -1.5 team at -120, but in the first 5, they might be that same -120 to win by 1 run after the first 5. We'll take that every day over them winning by 2 runs for a full game.
Exactly. You're completely right. For example, a first 5 bet that we took a couple days ago, the team was at -180. It was the Philadelphia Phillies over the Rockies. Kyle Gibson was on the mound. The Phillies were -185 in the money line. That's a really big money line, but I really did think that the Phillies were going to win. Could I have taken them at the spread? Of course, but the Phillies bullpen is not a bullpen that I want to get involved with. So what I did is I isolated the starting pitching matchup because I have all the data on that. And what I did was I got even better value because it's harder to win through the first 5 innings, and not always the team that wins the full game wins through the first 5 innings, but more often than not they do. And all I had to lay was around -130, much better odds, and it ended up hitting. And even it was a 4-2 score at the end of the 5th inning. But then the Phillies ended up winning by 6, I think. So the spread would have even covered as well. But we felt that through the first 5 innings, if we isolated the starting pitching matchup, that was the best value for us.
And this isn't all to say that reliever, taking into account relievers cannot be used to your advantage, because it absolutely can, right? There's plenty of times where I've taken an over for a full game because I don't like a certain bullpen. And I know by the 5th inning, by the 6th inning, that bullpen is going to be in full force, and they're going to have a big chance to give up a lot of runs. And that can sway me going, I don't know if I want to take this, to me going, this is going over.
I think this is a perfect segue to talk about our picks of the day, because for my picks of the day, I have the Mets money line at -115. And these are yesterday's picks. So these are Tuesday for Wednesday. I have Mets money line, Blue Jays spread, and the first 5 innings over 3.5 runs in Twins versus White Sox. You'll hear the next day whether these hit or not, but at least now you get to hear kind of how I got to these conclusions. And Colby's also going to talk about his picks because he has some different ones as well. So, for example, the reason why I wanted to isolate the Tigers versus the Twins over under through the first 5 innings was I saw value in isolating the starting pitchers and going over that total. It's Eduardo Rodriguez versus Chris Paddock. And Chris Paddock is not very good pitcher, and he doesn't really have that great of numbers against the Tigers. Eduardo Rodriguez, in a much larger sample, had a 5.42 FIP against the Twins. That's a much larger sample. So what we do know is that both pitchers have not performed this year, and the numbers against those two teams are not very good. My only thing is the Twins bullpen ain't half bad, and the Tigers bullpen ain't half bad. And overall, during the game, the weather isn't supposed to be that good. I saw a line that was really low. I wanted to isolate it through the first 5 innings, and that's why I went over 3.5 instead of taking it for the full game. Even though I do like the full game, I'd rather isolate it because I know that this is where I think offense is going to be scored most.
Peter, I want to bring up timing as well, because you took this bet early this morning at over 3.5. And now here we are, we're talking to you at close to 5 p.m. But if you looked at 3 p.m., 4 p.m., that line had actually crept up closer to 4 on some books for the first 5. So their timing is everything. And you have to view sports gambling as sort of a market. It really is a market of value, right? I can get the Cleveland Guardians today, for example. They're one of my picks. They were plus 135 when I took them. Now they're plus 140, plus 145 some places, right? And I'm kind of feeling like that might be a trap game because all the money is on the Cleveland Guardians and it keeps getting bigger and bigger. And yet the line keeps moving away from like it keeps moving for people to put more money on the Guardians, which usually can signal a trap.
It usually can signal a trap. And basically kind of what he's saying, just to summarize that quickly, when you look at the bet percentage, because generally think about it. Do you want to be with the public when they are betting, or do you want to be with the house? Generally, if you see 75% of bets are on one side, you would like to be on the other side because that other side is the side that Vegas is on and you want to play with the house. So what he's saying is that even though there is more money being put on the Cleveland Guardians money line, Vegas is actually making the line more enticing for you to bet on. That is a classic trap. Vegas wants more action, and they're even giving you better value to go on it. That's why also, Colby, we were talking about pre-record, why you think bet percentages in baseball is really important. I swear by it in football. I don't look at it all the time in baseball just because it's not as heavily bet on, but there are some games where we can see line movements where we could say, oh yeah, there's the trap.
And I actually think that strengthens it because there's not as many bets that you can really see where those sharp bets are going. For example, I took the Yankees Orioles over 7.5 today. And I don't like when say 50% of bets are on one side, but like 95% of the money is on that side. I hate that. I'm scared away, not taking it. But for example, the Yankees, 57% of bets are on the over. So the public is on the over slightly. 73% of the money is on that over. It's a slight difference, but I kind of do like sometimes when the public sees something. And then also there's a lot of money pouring into that too. It can signal that maybe the books don't see something, or they give us some wins every now and again, right? I also, besides that, right, that can't be the only thing you're looking into. The Yankees have the highest hard hit rate in baseball. They've been scoring runs the last 5-6 games. Orioles bats are better than they've shown. They have the 10th highest hard hit rate in baseball. Mullins, Mountcastle, Mancini, they've all gotten off to slow starts, but their expected stats are better than what they've shown so far. And even though Jordan Lyles has good numbers against this Yankees lineup, I still think that the way they're swinging it right now, mixed with how hard they're hitting the baseball, it's Jordan Lyles. He doesn't get strikeouts and he gives up a lot of loud contact. I'll overlook sometimes those things if I like the patterns that I'm seeing and the trends that I'm seeing in the last week.
Yeah, so we're talking about over-unders here. And all I wanted to add to what you were saying, because I think hard hit rates, all that stuff is so important. And I think the reason you brought that up is we are people who care about the quality of the contact. And the quality of the contact can be described on Baseball Savant. That is a website that I highly advise using. I also use a lot Fangraphs, of course, because I want to see my home road splits. We know I'm the splits god. I look at home road splits all the time because those are real indicators of how pitchers perform. But when I'm talking about quality of contact, also use ballparkpal.com. It's a great website
just going to bring that up
to help quantify the weather forecast and how it quantifies run production, whether it's, the wind's blowing in and it's cold and it might be down minus 15% extra base hits. Maybe you want to lean towards the under. So the three websites, Baseball Savant, Fangraphs, and Ballpark Pal, those are the three that I'm using very heavily. But the reason I love Baseball Savant is because what Baseball Savant can show us is the quality of contact. And how do we find quality of contact? That's using multiple different stats. I look at WOBA, which is a better indicator of average because it weights these different stats or weights different events within baseball differently. Batting average, a single and a home run means the same for your batting average. In WOBA, they mean differently. So I'll look at WOBA instead of batting average. XWOBA is now the StatCast version of that. And so that'll really tell you your quality of contact, your expected slugging, taking StatCast data to project what kind of slugging percentage you're going to have in the game. So a pitcher might have a high FIP, but if he's allowing a low xWOBA, a low X slugging percentage, I know the quality of contact is weak, so I might lean towards the under. Let's say they have a nice ERA against a team, but a high xWOBA, a high X slugging. That's when I say, oh, that pitcher, I don't know if he's actually going to perform the way that his ERA says.
And in terms of pitching stats that I use, I love looking at xERA, which is expected ERA, because it takes into account that quality of contact. It uses hard hit rates. It uses basically any stat, any information that we have, it bakes into that, right? It's the most accurate ERA estimator we have right now. And so that's kind of why I picked the Padres first five. The Padres are a good team. The Reds, they're facing the Reds, who are dead last in WRC plus. And Reaver San Martin, 7.3 ERA, 4.3 xERA. He's only striking guys out 14% of the time, 11% walk rate. Not good stuff. 41% hard hit rate is well above average for a pitcher. Then you look to the other side, Joe Musgrove. He's lights out. 1.89 ERA, 2.76 xERA. He looks like an ace. A 30% K rate, a 1% walk rate. Those xERA, K rate, walk rate are like my go-tos for pitchers, because those are the things that I know I can expect start to be normalized throughout a season.
Absolutely. And that's what brings me to my spread bet of the day, because it's one of the first spread bets of the year. And I took the Blue Jays minus 1.5, which is the spread, plus 105 against the Red Sox. And when we're talking about K rates, we're talking about walk rates. Kevin Gausman, 22 strikeouts, 0 walks. He's been phenomenal, and his peripherals look even better. But the reason is why I'm using all the stats and why I'm going so heavily on the Blue Jays. It's not only because of the COVID situation, how some of the Red Sox are unvaccinated, but Nick Pivetta, 6.28 ERA, 1.56 WHIP, 18 walks and 41 strikeouts in 43 innings against the Jays in his career, but against the current lineup, 6.49 FIP, 5.04 X slugging, and he's got a 4.12 WOBA. You look at all of those stats, those are extremely high. So we know that Nick Pivetta does not perform well against the Red Sox, or excuse me, against the Blue Jays. But then when we look at Kevin Gausman's stats against the Red Sox, we're looking at a 2.79 FIP, a 3.08 expected slugging, and a 2.58 WOBA. That's telling me not only is the quality of contact down for Gausman, but what Gausman can control, and that's in your FIP, that's your fielding independent pitching, which takes out a lot of the defense, all those events, and really focuses on the three true outcome, which is home runs, strikeouts, and walks. He's been excellent. So I have one pitcher who's staunchly bad, giving up high quality of contact, versus a great pitcher who's not walking anybody, who gives up a lot of low quality contact. That's the separator, along with the bullpens, along with the better offense, along with being at home. All of those things have to line up for me to take a spread, and it's at plus value. Bang it.
I want to transition into shopping bets, Peter, shopping lines, because today in Chalkboard, you brought up that you're on the Nerfy in the Rays versus the Mariners game, and you said you got the line at -160. One of our people in -155, excuse me. One of the people in Chalkboard said, Peter, I shopped around. I got the line at -140. And that's the things that you have to do. If you're in a state that has legal gambling and you can be on a DraftKings, you can be on FanDuel, you can be on BetMGM, Caesars, all of them, be on all of them so that sometimes one book will have a better line than the other. And then one more point before you go here, Peter, is people are probably going to be asking, where do you guys see the percentage of bets people are on, but also the percentage of money? And that's over on Action Network. In order to see the percentage of money, though, you need to pay for a subscription every month. But I would say if you are gambling a decent amount on baseball, on any sport, and if you're gambling more than, $200, $300 every single month, the subscription's $10, $20 a month. That's basically one bet for you that you're throwing away every month. I can almost assure you, not gambling advice, but I can almost not gamble advice that getting that subscription will win you an extra bet every month. So go and do it. It's worth it.
I like the wordplay there. Not gamble advice, do it. And if you don't want to pay for a subscription on Action Network, because sometimes, they're not always perfect. They get data in a little bit late. It's not all encompassing data. It's not the end all be all. Vegas Insider also has some great odds. They can track that too. That's my only thing is football. It's a lot bigger, but I do agree with you in baseball. It is important to look at, but I always go to the ex-WOBAs, the ex-slugging. What's his FIP look like? How do these starting pitchers match up against each other and against the current lineup? Because it's great to look at their ERA in their entire career versus the team in multiple starts through different years, but it was different lineups, home road, it was different. And that's why I always love to look at baseball savants. I like to look at the quality of contact of the current projected starters against that pitcher. But then you also have to contextualize that pitchers change. Pitchers are different home versus the road. Tyler Mahle is the perfect example of extreme home road splits. Even Shohei Ohtani has struggled on the road versus at home. He's not a guy that you really want to fade on the road, though, because his advanced numbers indicate that, it's a bit of a
we almost just threw a perfect game and
exactly
and it made. So
that's Shohei Ohtani. Maybe take a step back, but it's clear that some pitchers just perform better at home versus on the road. And also what I like to look at too, and this is how I kind of want to end it, is I love Colby travel days, because what a travel day is when a team on short rest has to travel from one city to the next without an off day to then face a team that has already been on a homestand. Choosing that first team in that first day is always pretty lucrative, because we know that not getting the same rest, being on the road is just a little bit harder. Maybe the bats are a little bit slower. And I've also felt that is a great way to maybe tail a home underdog facing a team that's traveling. We've been very successful there as well. And that will only get better as the season goes, because the more games you play, the more tired you're going to be.
I think another thing to bring up here is just going along with current trends, Peter. All we've been seeing is that there's something going on with the baseball this season, whether that's the humidor, which Saris and Ken Rosenthal just wrote about. If you don't have an Athletic subscription, if you do, go read it, because it's really,
actually screw the Athletic. Well, not screw the Athletic, because the Athletic is an amazing publication, but Arm and I on the Just Baseball show, you can hear that episode today. Or actually, we'll link it in there. We are talking about what has happened to the baseball and the fact that offense has been down. So Arm and I will be going over that on the Just Baseball show. So if you want to read The Athletic, it is a pretty great article. We are probably going to be referencing. We
love Eno. Saris is great.
I love Eno Saris. He's one of my favorites. But screw The Athletic.
Yeah, but just to finish my point, right? We've seen that scoring is down and unders are hitting 61% of the time right now. You just gotta kind of go with the current trends of baseball, right? The books aren't always going to adjust as fast as they should, and we need to be proactive. The last thing I'll say is that we covered a lot of information in this episode, a lot of great educational information. But anything we didn't cover, any thoughts that you're left with, any questions you have, please, either leave them in the YouTube comments, please either reach out to us on Twitter, anywhere, right? Reach out to us because we're in the chalkboard. We're always happy to help. And all we want to do is help you guys make money and have the best chance of making money that you can.
And we do it for free. We don't charge for picks. The chalkboard is free. I write an article every single day on justbaseball.com, totally free, no paywall either. And on justbaseball.com, we're excited that our top 100 prospect list is out. We're doing more fantasy baseball content as well, betting, trading cards with our friends at Loop. Everything that you can imagine under the sun, you're going to find on justbaseball.com and on our YouTube. And also, please let us know if this was valuable information to you. If this was just a little boring and you already know it, or if you'd like to hear more, maybe about parlays, why we don't, why we do, and maybe about any other bets, any explaining how we come to a futures bet, all those kinds of things. If you'd like to hear more, let us know, because it's not gambling advice anyway, so who cares?
It's not gambling advice. And we really just want to help the people, man. I was not the most experienced gambler 3 years ago. Now I feel like I'm learning a ton. I've learned a lot in the last 3 years, and I hope that I can pass that knowledge, as can you. You're even more of an experienced gambler than I am, and I've learned a ton from you. So it's just such an educational process, and we just want to be a community for that.
I have been doing this for longer than I'd like to admit. I just love it so much. And it's not even about the money. It's not about the rush. I genuinely love trying to predict a baseball game. It's one of my favorite things to do within baseball. Predicting, analyzing, that's my thing. That's what I love to do. And it's not gambling advice. And I jumped on TikTok on April 7th, 2021 with that idea in mind. Hopefully that we would win 1 unit on each bet every day, 3 picks a day. We were up 15.67 units last year. We're currently up 19.54 units. There's ebbs and flows. We're on a high right now. We could easily go down, but we're going to give you all the analysis and give you our best shot every single day. So with that, thank you, everybody.